Everybody, it's Zach KK Zach's Reviews. We are back in with another video, and guys, this will be All-American Season 4, Episode 11, called Liberation. This will be the spoiler review. Guys, just another great episode for All-American. I really did enjoy this episode. I did have some annoyance in a lot of situations of what was going on, which again, I feel like that things, like, they had some validness, but at the same time they didn't. The main thing I really want to talk about, and I wrote down a lot of, like, pointers about this episode, about, like, really what's, like, stuck out about this episode. The first thing I do want to talk about is I want to talk about the living situation at the Baker house with Patience and, of course, Coop. Well, Coop isn't there right now because Patience told Coop that she wanted space. So Coop is right now, I think, right now with her dad and living at her dad's place right now because, Patience wanted space. And we get a lot between Patience and of Laura and what's going on between that detective coming back, which that's a whole different story, which I really do want to talk about. That's one of the annoyances I had, which I just hope that, we'll get to, and why I think that's so annoying about the whole detective situation and all that. But I want to talk about, I did not know that Layla was staying with the Bakers. I don't know if we've seen that, or we had that, altercation where we know why she's living with the Bakers. I totally forget why she is. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys remember why she's living with the Bakers. I think it was because of her father, and that she just didn't want to live with her father. She wanted to live with them for a while. I don't know. I kind of forget. Let me know if you guys know why she's living with the Bakers, because I thought maybe she was just sleeping over, but we ended up seeing her at the end of this episode go back to the Bakers. So I don't know if she's just staying there for a while. I'm very confused. But I do want to know down in the comments below why that is. That was one of the things that pointed out to me. I'm going to come back on here in a second. My mom is trying to call me. I will start this video back up in a second. Guys, my mom wanted to know where I was. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below why, like, Layla is staying there. I guess she's, I thought maybe it could be like, it's kind of like a summer beach house thing, kind of like how Spencer and Jordan and Asher and JJ are all together. I thought maybe this is kind of like a girl situation where they're all together. That could still be it. And knowing that, as far as I know, no one's at college really, because Layla's not going to college. She's doing her producing thing, at her label. And of course, Olivia is doing her, it's not an internship anymore, but she's working with that, LA, Tribune paper thing. And of course, Patience is still doing some stuff with music with Layla. And Coop is just chilling right now. We don't really know what Coop's up to, so I'm pretty sure it's kind of like that's the living situation since Jordan's not there. Maybe Layla's there as well. I don't really know. Let me know if you guys picked up on that, if it was somewhere in the story. But my favorite part I loved about this episode is because, Laura, like, Billy sees Laura and is asking Laura what tie he should wear because he wants to make a good impression. Even though he's interim principal, he wants to make a good impression for South Crenshaw and, really look the part. But when he looks at Laura, she has, like, her curlers in her hair. She's not ready to, like, for the day. And he's like, whoa, or whatever. And he's like, she's like, I can't take it anymore. There's no rules around the house. We have to make some rules because I can barely get into any of the bathrooms. I can barely get into even our bathroom. And, she's just not having it or whatever. And it isn't until the moment where Billy's like, I've had enough, until his cereal, Sergeant Sugar Flakes, get taken out of the house. And he's like, where's my Sergeant Sugar Flakes? And Laura's like, well, the girls thought it'd be best if we had all the junk food cereal out of the house. He's like, oh, hell no. Or he's like, we need to make some ground rules. I was like, I love how is what really makes you want to set the rules, is that his sugar cereal got taken out of the house. I thought that was hilarious. But then it came to me when Jordan, where, like, I guess, Billy goes over to the beach house to see Jordan, Asher, and Spencer, and JJ. And what's going on over there is that JJ is on this big, Zen quest of yoga, and he wants to become a TikToker, I guess, on the side. Well, but while he's trying to do college football at UCLA. So that was just funny to me that he's trying to be a TikToker and trying to do this Zen yoga stuff. And, and of course they just find it funny that, that Jordan and Asher all find it funny. Even Spencer find it funny that that's what he's doing. Because they're taking everything that JJ's doing, like, with a grain of salt. They really don't care what JJ's doing because JJ, half the shit he does doesn't make any sense. He's just a funny character. I don't know. But, it was just funny because Billy walks in and Billy's like, oh, where's the cereal? And then he ends up finding out that, it ends up, like, finding out that, oh my God, Jordan, did you take my cereal? because I guess it was the same cereal, and I guess there was the same amount. I don't know how we would know he took a cereal, but as I forgot, Jordan raided the house when he was like talking to Olivia in the last episode, and he took Billy's Sergeant Sugarflake cereal. The girls never took it out. It was Jordan that, pretty much is mooching from his parents still, taking food from the house and taking it back to the beach house because he doesn't want to spend money on food, I guess. So that was just hilarious to me. I just love how he knew it was his cereal, and Jordan's just speechless at this point. But going on to everything else that happened in this episode, I want to talk about Spencer in a situation with the coach. I wrote down the coach's name, which I totally forgot what the coach's name was at first. I'm trying to figure out what it was. Let me find out. Coach, what is it? What was it? I wrote it down, and I'm trying to figure out what the coach's name was. Coach Grant. Coach Grant is the one, I guess, he ends up finding out from the assistant coach that's being nice to him that Coach Grant never wanted Spencer. He ends up finding that in this episode. He never wanted Spencer. He wanted the other dude, which the other dude's name was, what was it? The other kid's name. Coach Grant, and what was the other kid's name? Why can't I find it? What was it? I have it in here. Come on. No, it's not it. Where is it? Because it's going to annoy me. I'm trying to figure out what this other kid's name was. Why can't I find it? I don't know, but I guess that Coach Grant wanted the other kid that I guess has Spencer's spot. And pretty much Coach Grant is like, the assistant coach that, is, talks highly of you only wanted, like, the only reason that I chose you for the school is because the assistant coach wouldn't come join, and take the assistant coach position unless I chose you too. And the coach and Spencer even asked the assistant coach, is that true? And he said yes, because I saw talent in you. And Coach Grant is like, he sees talent in you, but I don't see it. I didn't even want you. I didn't want you because you took what's his face's scholarship. I forget the one kid's name. I swear to God I wrote it down, but I cannot find it on here. What that one kid's name was. It was like I'm trying to figure out what it was. Come on. Where is it? No, it's not it. Spencer. I still don't know what the other Isaiah. I think that was his name. I guess because of his position, I guess it was his scholarship, but I guess it was like, oh, I'll join, but like I need you to get Spencer a scholarship. And he doesn't like the fact of, like, the one coach is like, he sees talent in you, but, I don't see that. You're stuck in back thinking that you deserve positions and you're so good when this is a new slate. You're not going against kids from, high school anymore. This is the big times. This is D1 scholarship schools. Like, you're going against the best of the best. This is a new slate. You can't go off of how good you did back in high school. And I don't really see Spencer like being that problem, is that Coach Grant is making Spencer like out to be like this problem kid that thinks he's like the best and thinks that he deserves the best and thinks that he deserves positions. I really am and demanding for those things. Like, Spencer, I've not seen that from him since he's been here. Coach Grant just started getting on him out of nowhere about him catching a one-handed pass and started going after him. I don't understand that, because there isn't enough where it's like Coach Grant's like, oh, you think that you're the best and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I haven't seen that from Spencer other than, little moments where like he had it with Jordan, and Jordan made it sound like, Spencer is demanding that he deserves a spot when that's not the case. I don't know. I really am not seeing what Coach Grant is putting down, making Spencer sound like he is this entitled player that thinks he deserves a spot on the team and thinks that he deserves to start on the team. I don't see that, but I'm not gonna lie, Spencer is better than that one kid that got the scholarship. That is true. So I mean, I'm not gonna like not say that, because it is true. Like, Spencer is the best, and I mean, and the fact that one dude didn't see it and was like and kind of like made it sound like he was twisting the other dude's arm about okay, like, I guess if I want you so bad or whatever, like, I guess I'll bring Spencer James, to the school as well. It's like, you should want him on your team because he is a good player. I just don't see the kind of like argument they're trying to build here where it makes it sound like Spencer's like he thinks he's the best player on the team, when that's really not what I'm seeing. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I'm liking how we're like Spencer's learning how to multitask, because of course there's a moment in today's episode where, like, when he finds out that, Coach Grant didn't want him there, and finds out the assistant coach was only going to take the job if Spencer got a scholarship to the college, that was a rough blow to Spencer. I mean, he ended up, trying to figure out a way to really prove that he is a great player. He's trying to prove that. He's trying to prove that he can, multitask, and really, he's like really trying to push himself, even though we thought he had it all figured out when he started waking up even earlier than like what he was waking up before. So it's like we're really seeing that this is really going to be hard for him. He needs to try to balance everything. And we really even see him and, Olivia's relationship being, tested when, Olivia gets, a call from Jen's mom and can't find out where, Jen is. And, Jen, of course, is, Olivia is Jen's sponsor, and, Olivia pretty much, started panicking, saying, oh my God, what if, Jen is relapsing, I need Spencer here, and tries calling Spencer, but Spencer's dealing with the fact that he just realized that the Coach Grant never even wanted him there, and he pretty much got, his arm twisted, pretty much, and got manipulated, essentially, to get, put on, to get taken to the college by the assistant coach. So it's kind of like, I understand, that Spencer didn't answer the phone because he's going through things, but I just hated how Olivia assumed that Spencer had bigger priorities, and, and Spencer, it made it sound like Spencer didn't want to put Olivia first, when Olivia didn't know really what was going on with Spencer and why he wasn't picking up the phone, making it sound like, just Spencer doesn't care. Because Spencer cared, but he was going through so many other things. And they even explain that through the end of this episode, is that they both have to work on the communicating skills and make things work, and can't just jump to conclusions on if they don't pick up the phone, or, what I mean? Or, because, Spencer, one thing that Olivia needed to realize is that Spencer, just because Jordan was there, and, doesn't mean that Jordan has the same situation that Spencer has. Spencer didn't want to, the main coach didn't want Spencer there, but Coach Grant wanted Jordan there. Jordan's not having the same problems as Spencer, so I hated that comparison where, why isn't Spencer answering his phone? You're here. You have the same things going on as he does, when that's not the case. She doesn't understand. She didn't quite understand yet what Spencer just found out. So I kind of hated how she was just getting on Spencer for not knowing, why he wasn't picking up the phone. And I feel like he had no right to yell at her when, she does end up calling him when, he's, in the gym, trying to really, put out his, frustrations of the coach not wanting him there, and really trying to put in the grind so he could prove to the coach that he deserves to be there. That, she yells at him saying, oh, why weren't you answering your phone? I really needed you. I thought Jen was relapsing, and pretty much making it sound like Jen was more important in the situation. Why, when it comes to football, you always put me last. I love when Spencer's like, don't act like I put you last, because don't do that, because that's not true. I just found out that the coach didn't even want me here, and everything is falling apart. My dreams and me trying to, make it to the league is all falling apart. I really wish she just wouldn't have just assumed that he was putting football first, and assumed that, he had bigger things than her, because he always tries to put her first. Hell, he even makes snack breaks for Olivia, trying to make their relationship work out when he can. And, he's going through the ringer trying to impress this Coach Grant, even though Spencer really doesn't have anything to prove, because Spencer is a really great player, and he's not ragging on anybody else, and he's not this problem that Coach Grant is making Spencer out to be. And that's why I kind of hate this storyline, because it's like Spencer's not the person that Coach Grant is making Spencer out to be. I just don't see that. I'm just happy that, this argument between Olivia and Spencer didn't go on forever, because that would have been stupid over the lack of communication. I'm just so happy that they pretty much both said sorry to one another. And I love the moment where Olivia's this was our first argument, and and she's like, do you know what that means? Breakup sex. Not breakup sex, Jesus. That makeup sex. I even said to my sister, how did I know she was gonna say that shit? Because I thought that was funny. So, I'm just happy they made up and they didn't break up, because that would have been such a stupid argument over the lack of communication. So I'm just happy that this wasn't something we prolonged all throughout the rest of this season. It just got resolved, and they're making it work. I'm great. I'm happy, but I'm just annoyed that this Coach Grant is making Spencer to be out like this selfish player that thinks he's better than everybody else. Even though, again, I don't blame him, because he is better than that other kid, even though if he got the scholarship or not, I still think he's better than the other dude. But even then, it's like this Coach Grant had no reason to go after Spencer all because he caught one catch. He shouldn't single him out. That's not fair, especially after something he didn't know. The assistant coach is the one that pretty much, did the negotiation. Like, I'll take the assistant coach position if you bring Spencer James to this give him a scholarship so he can come to this college with me. He did not know that, so don't single him out, making him think that Spencer knew what the assistant coach did. That just is very petty to me and very kiddish that the coach went through all that, making it sound like Spencer knew about all that and making Spencer out to be this selfish, not team player athlete. That really annoys me. But since all that, and that hasn't really even gotten resolved because Spencer still has to put in the work to try to prove to this coach that he's not that person and he deserves to be there. But them, him and Olivia's argument got settled, and and even Olivia ends up finding out why Jen skipped out in school, and it's because Jen was afraid to go back to school because she spent all summer trying to get clean, and she didn't want to relapse or anything by her being surrounded by the same people that got her into all the stuff that she was in. That's why she skipped out on the first day of school. And the thing that pretty much gets her to confess that is Jordan's I guess it's the Baker special. It's like this some sort of ice cream sundae concoction that makes Jen confess to why she skipped out on school. And it's funny because Jen's really, you think ice cream is going to make me tell you why I didn't go to the first day of school? And he's like, oh well, try it because this is not no ordinary ice cream, this is the Baker special. And that pretty much made her spill the beans on why she didn't go to the first day of school. So I'm just happy that that wasn't something that that was going to drag out. She just said it, and that's something that I'm gonna be honest, I totally forgot that Jen storyline too. So when we got the phone call from Jen's mom, I totally forgot that Olivia was Jen's sponsor. I totally forgot. I was like, damn, I forgot about that plot line because I felt like we took so long and we went so away from that plot line that kind of was a shock to me that we were still we still had that plot line where Olivia is Jen's sponsor, because Olivia's been doing all these other things where she is working at the LA paper. So I was like, oh, I totally forgot she's a sponsor for Jen. So I'm interested to see where that plot line will go, because Jen's clean right now. She took all summer to be clean, and she doesn't want to be surrounded by the same people that got her to be addicted. So I'm interested to see, will she have a relapse, or will something bad happen, or what will happen with that of her being Olivia, or of Jen being Olivia's sponsor. I'm interested to see how that. No, not the other way around, about Olivia being Jen's sponsor. So I'm interested to see how that will go going forward in the storyline. But going on with Layla, and I forget that one singer. I wrote it down because it's a very forgettable name. Honestly, it's Sabine. Sabine wants to comes in, wants to work, says I did tell you I wanted to work with you, Layla, and pretty much breaks Layla out of her shell of her just doing the pretty much of her doing the I guess of her not breaking out of her shell. Sabine makes Layla break out of her shell of oh, you did great music for Patience, and that was you breaking out of your shell. Don't do the normal don't do the standard producer stuff. You need to break out of your shell if you want to build an empire. And Sabine breaks her out of her shell and makes it so she confesses to Sabine, yeah, I want to have an empire. Yes, I don't want to do any normal little company. I want to have I want to have an empire and be the biggest producer. So I'm happy that Sabine broke her out of that, and there wasn't much to that to know that that's what Sabine was trying to do, trying to get Layla out of her shell, so Layla would know what she would want and wants Layla to go for what she wants. I like that. It wasn't too stressful to get to the point of what Sabine was trying to make. It's front and center. That's what Sabine was trying to do, was trying to get Layla out of her shell and get Layla out of her shadow of her father and say, you want to be the best, you want to have an empire, you need to do you need to go outside the box like you've been doing with Patience. These sounds that you've been making are so typical for, these producers, that you have a special sound. That's what makes your label so special, is because what you did for Patience. So I need you to do that for me. And Layla's like, okay, if you want me to give you your sound, I need to know who you are, and breaks Layla out of her shell of doing instead of doing the normal producer stuff, to do the outgoing producer stuff that's going to get her a big empire and to make her very successful as a producer. And I really enjoyed that little storyline. I'm wondering where that will go going forward, because we still don't know what's going on between her and Clay. So I'm kind of hoping we get back to that soon, because I feel like that's like the big situation right now, is like that's her big storyline. If like she can ever like be in a relationship again, I feel like that's like the big thing right now, especially because I feel like that's really what's big with her, is that it seems like she thinks of Clay of getting in her way, and she's afraid to get back into a relationship. I'm excited to see where that will go, because I think her and Clay are a perfect match, and I want to know where that will go. So I'm excited to get back to that storyline, because I feel like that's what we're really diving deep into, is Layla, will she be able to get back into another relationship, because of her past relationships not going very well. So I'm interested to see where that will go, along with, her building her empire. But also going on with the thing I really didn't like, another thing, like I said, what I really didn't like about the whole coaching going after Spencer thing, I don't like how in this episode we really hone in on Patience and I forget this one, like, detective's name. It's like, Detective, what was it? Bronski. Detective Bronski is back and pretty much is trying, I guess, I found evidence about Coop and the whole shooting with Mo. And, I totally forgot we were still with that plot line too. It's like we've been so away from that plot line. I thought the case was closed, and kind of bringing it out of the open again, it kind of is annoying and kind of pointless at this point, because we've been a little bit away from this. And I really thought this was over with, but I'm going to wait to see where it'll go first. But I felt like we've kind of have kind of concluded that storyline of the whole case and stuff, with the whole, with Coop kind of saying to, I forget, was it Amina, that, I'm the one that shot your mother, and pretty much covering for Preach. I thought this was all over with, but I'm gonna wait to see what incriminating evidence that apparently that this Detective Bronski has against Coop. I don't know, but that's pretty much all what we get with Patience in this episode, is between Laura and Detective Bronski, and Patience is all to do with what evidence he has about Coop, and that's what's going to be all next week's episode is going to be about. If it is next week, I think it is next week, we're going to get a new episode, which is episode 12. So I'm interested to see what evidence he has, or if he's just trying to, scare them so Coop will confess about Preach being the one that shot Mo. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I don't know what this dude's agenda is. I felt like this storyline was over, and I kind of don't like how it's coming back around again, and the case is open out of nowhere. I kind of don't like that, but I'll wait to see where it will go, of course. But, also, I don't know, with Asher talking to, Coach Montez, Coach Montez's, husband, and, how he works at UCLA, and how Coach Montez was setting up Asher to become an assistant coach with her husband. I thought that was really cool. I forgot about that plot line too, is that she suggested he go, maybe become an assistant coach there. And I'm excited that he's finally doing that. And of course he has to become, the coach put him through like a little test to find out what he sees that will really set him up to become a coach one day, is that he has to see things people don't see. And Asher clearly can do that from him doing the sports bookie thing. He clearly sees what other people don't see, hence why he was making so much money doing the sports bookie thing. So I'm excited that, the Coach Montez said, okay, I'll bring you on, but you're going to be a towel boy. You're going to clean the towels and stuff and the jerseys until you get up to the level of that. I just think you're ready to become an assistant coach, to become a coach maybe one day. So he's like, I'll do anything because, you are the best and I'm going to learn from the best. And that's pretty much like what his situation that Asher's going through in this episode is him, pretty much, him like, getting the acceptance from Coach Montez, so Coach Montez can see what his wife saw in him when he was even a player. So I'm excited to see where that will go, because I think that is Asher's calling, him becoming, an assistant coach and becoming even a coach. for football, because I think he sees what other people don't see clearly. But yeah, not much really was going on in the episode besides those things. Also, the biggest takeaway is that, the biggest thing I loved about this episode is that I really want to talk about is Preach becoming a tutor in the school at South Crenshaw. I think that is amazing. I feel like that is definitely Preach's calling, and I feel like this is where Preach is happy at, and I'm really hoping. I was like, this is a really good, environment for Preach. I'm really liking that. I'm really liking this. That he's being, this is his calling. I'm really liking this. And I was like, even Billy, Billy even sees that Preach would be great at this. And the funny moment I really like the most is that when Billy was explaining to Preach that, the other dude that was, the other teacher that was in here and that was their tutor, ran out here crying. And then Preach is like, I worked with people, leading up to death row or whatever. I think I can handle some students. And he's like, the thing you don't understand is that other teacher that left here crying, he fought in he fought in he fought somewhere, and I was like, damn. And then Preach's face, he's like, what? He's like the teacher that ran out here crying fought in Afghanistan. And he's like, what? He's like, it's just funny because Preach is like, if that dude ran out here crying, I don't know. And he fought in Afghanistan. I don't know how I'm gonna stand up against these kids. And then he walks in there. That scowl that he must have gave them set them in line because they were all quiet. From them being wild a second ago, made them all like, oh shit, whatever. So I thought that was hilarious, and I feel like Billy right then and there knew Coop was right about me putting Preach as the tutor, because holy shit, he got these kids in line. That was a great choice by Coop, saying that Preach would be a perfect fit for this job. But really bummed me out is that Grace was against Preach being there because of his 2 strikes. I really expected more from Grace. I was like, really, Grace? Like, that is really not your character to really go against somebody because of their record. I was like, I don't know if I like this writing, because Grace, especially because that was the big thing, is that that Spencer had in the previous episodes that we already had about Spencer fighting against people not wanting to rat out his team or rat out Jabari for the prank that they did when where Beverly's gym got flooded, because he's like, I don't want something getting on somebody's record and then their whole life getting ruined. I mean, they shouldn't have to fall to the system. And I was like, really, Preach made mistakes. Yeah, he might have one more strike or whatever, but he's made mistakes. You should understand that people make mistakes. I expect that from Grace, because that's who Grace's character is. She knows that people make mistakes and people shouldn't be, people shouldn't be turned away because of their mistakes. I was like, I don't know why her character is acting like this. I'm gonna give it a couple more episodes to see why she really doesn't want Preach to be the tutor. But, Billy is all for having them there permanently. Billy wants to become the permanent principal, and he goes to Grace saying that. And Grace is like, I don't know about that, Billy. I had to trick you to become interim principal. I don't know about you becoming full-on principal. And he's like, why not? She's like, because you can be selfish sometimes. And it's like, really? You're holding that against him when he's changed so much? I don't like what they're doing with Grace's character. Let me know if you guys feel the way how I feel, because I just don't like her character right now. It's very not Grace, the writing. So I'm going to give it a minute to see where this is going. And her saying the board and I found a more permanent principal that is more suited for the job, that lives in South Crenshaw, that knows what's best for these kids. And I'm like, you're talking about yourself, aren't you? I'm like, because I even said in the last episode, and I didn't say that in my spoiler review, but I said Grace she's going to become principal. Because she's looking for a principal. I'm like, is she going to run for principal? Is she going to do that when she's looking for a principal? I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Because when she said, when she was doing all the tricks to get Billy to become, interim principal, I was like, okay, she doesn't want to run for principal. But when she's like, me and the board found a better suited principal that knows what's best for the kids, lives in the community, and all this, I'm like, I feel like you're talking about yourself. I'm like, are they really going to do it where she, is going to do this behind Billy's back and really doesn't think that Billy is suited for the job and is going to screw him over like that? I'm like, are they really going to do this? Making it sound like that Grace thinks of lower of Billy, thinking that he can't become the principal, even though that she wanted him to become interim principal. I was like, I don't know if they go that route, I know I'm not gonna like that. So I'm hoping she's not talking about herself becoming principal, because I think that would be kind of like a spit in the face to Billy, that, you know, she thinks very low of Billy when Billy's grown a lot. So I don't like really where they're going with Grace's character, and yet again, I'm gonna give it a minute before I really say I really don't like where Grace's character is going. But I just don't like what they're doing with her character. It doesn't feel like the writing is good for Grace's character, because it doesn't seem like Grace, you know what I'm saying? Let me know if you guys know what I'm talking about. But other than that, that was like pretty much the entire episode. I really enjoyed it, except the whole Detective Bronski thing, and of course the whole coach. I forget the dude's coach's name. It's like Coach. I have to look it up, because like the coach has a super forgettable name. Coach, where is it? Coach, where is it? Is it down here? Coach Grant. Jeez. So I don't know. I don't like the Coach Grant making it Spencer sound like this selfish athlete that only cares about himself. Over one-handed catch that he made, and that made this coach assume that Spencer was like all for himself and shit. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's very not good writing. I'm just hoping that things start making a little bit more sense with that, because I just don't like it over a one-handed catch, when that's literally what players do. You know, on practice, they do one-handed catches all the time. Even like before a big game, when they're warming up, they do one-handed catches and shit. If you make a catch, you make a catch. A coach will be happy if you make a catch. So I don't know. I just find it very weird. This coach is just going after him, all because of the assistant coach said it like, I'm only going to take this job if Spencer James comes here, because I see like real star potential in this dude. And the coach took that, like, Spencer James is a diva, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, dude. It's like, get to know him before you, like, cast him out as, like, a selfish player that only cares about himself and is all about him being the best player. Like, come on. Really get to know him. I hate that. It makes me hate this coach so much. And I feel like I'm always going to hate this coach, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, I really did enjoy this episode, except of course the Detective Bronski, the Coach Grant stuff, and of course, I think that was it. I think honestly, the main two nitpicks I had about that was just those things. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I cannot wait for the next episode to see what like evidence that Detective Bronski has against Coop. What evidence really do you have? You know what I mean? It's like nothing was left at the scene. How would you have proof of anything, because Coop again wasn't the one that shot anybody? So what incriminating proof would you have to do something to Coop? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, guys, that was a video of, again, episode 11 of All American season 4. Again, the name of this episode again was called let me look it up again. What was the episode? The name of this episode was called, let me look at it. It's called Liberation. So again, that was my spoiler review for All American season 4 episode 11 called Liberation. I want to know what your thoughts and theories are about this episode, and what your theories are for like the next episodes to come. And let me know how you guys feel about my little nitpicks I have about the stories that are going on right now, because it really don't make much sense. But I'm gonna hold off because it's not bothering me. It's not like, oh, the season's totally garbage. I'm not going to say that, because, I mean, things could, like, potentially get to the point where things start to make sense. But, like, I'm having little nitpicks here and there, because it's just, of the storyline, it's not making much sense. But, yeah, guys, that was a video. I hope everybody has a great day, a safe day. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.